have some kind of vision in front of you, you're gonna land somewhere that you're not wanting to go. There's no way for you to, when you do any type of reflecting, like how do you know you're in the direction that you want to go? Like you have that ability to set the tone and to change the direction, to pivot when there's challenges, to move towards where it is you want to move towards. Okay, we're back.
We are back in 2024.
Wow. In the past, I guess, when you guys listen to it, but it really feels like the future now that we're talking about it. It's a really weird paradox. I don't know, that's just me being weird, but here we are, and we have really big, exciting, fun things happening. And for anyone that's been following the Sex and Medicine podcast journey thus far, on Instagram you would have seen our huge reveal about our new podcast studio, our new broadcasting team showing on FM radio channel as well, and lots of little, one more sneak peek, but we're not quite ready to announce it, but there's some licensings that we're waiting for the CRTC here in Canada. So really, really big, exciting things. And we just want to say thank you so much to you guys, our community, because we really honestly wouldn't be here if you guys weren't tuning in every day, weekly, or whenever it is you're tuning in, liking, subscribing, sharing, and really giving us the feedback and the comments that we've heard from you guys, because that really lights us up, that really gets us going. It's really why we're here, why we're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And I love just like looking back at when this started as like just an idea back in October. We were just like, hey, like let's do a podcast, and it all just started with our little like riverside chats when we used to talk and go for our morning walks. And then we launched in November, and just watching how fast things have happened has been really, really amazing. And like how we held the vision, and now we're really seeing that vision like come to life in the physical. It's been so amazing to just see that come to fruition.
Yeah, and I guess the modern day mystics online, that quantum leap, baby. Quantum leap. Here we go. Yeah, it really did all happen super fast. And that just, I think for me anyways, it really reaffirms that we're in deep alignment with the greater scheme of things, and just within ourselves and our own integrity.
Yeah, and I would say to like anyone listening out there, if you have an idea, if you have something that you've been thinking of, something that you were inspired by, or something that has been ruminating in your system for a year or 2 years or however long, just do the thing. Do the thing. It's 2024. Do the thing.
This is the best year to do it, I feel. Anyways, so, and this is like really the theme for today's episode. So Kasey and I, the other day, we actually went really deep into our own reflecting on 2023 and our own vision making for where not only Sex and Medicine podcast is going, just but us as individuals, because you will find that when you don't do some form of reflection, whether it be over a year-end review, your relationships, your health, or anything, some form of reflection on yourself as an individual showing up into this world, you don't necessarily, see how much you've grown. All the trials and tribulations, the things that you actually really deep down do feel gratitude for, but because you're not reflecting, you don't see the grand scheme of things.
I think too, like you can kind of, if you don't reflect, you can kind of get lost going down a path that maybe you don't even want to be on, but because you're not reflecting and you're not catching yourself, you're not saying like, oh shit, like I gotta redirect right now, and you just like keep going down this path, and then 5, 10 years later, and now you're suddenly like, oh wow, like this is not where I want to be. And that's one of the things I find so beneficial about like doing these reflections. And I'm not even big on like New Year's resolutions, quote unquote, but like a reflection and kind of like a vision planning, if you will, for the year to come can be really, really beneficial. And I actually like to do mine, like I do a big one at the year on New Year's, and then I do like to do the monthly too. Like the end or the beginning of a month, I'll kind of do like a little mini one. Be like, oh, okay, like what were my wins in the month? What things do I want to like focus on in the month coming up? And it's just like a little bit of a shorter version, but that's really beneficial, I find, as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely do that too. And it's helpful because when you do have a really big vision, it's nice to have these little check-ins. I actually do like weekly check-ins just to make sure I have all of my little mundane tasks, because as an entrepreneur, you have so many fucking things you have to do constantly. And as a mom, like there's just so much that you're juggling in your brain that you can't you just cannot juggle your brain. I just want to highlight that multitasking is a fucking lie. If you are trying to multitask, you are missing out on so much, and you're literally, by definition, you're not present. And in my opinion, being present is really allowing you to be immersed in the process of your life, immersed into the relationships of your life, and just really staying in tune with your body and the rhythms of your body, your cycle, your feelings, your sensations, all those things. So you just can't.
Yeah, no, I find when I like try and multitask, I get nothing done. Like literally, like you're trying to do, you do a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this over here, and then like 3 weeks go by and all the things you wanted to get done, nothing's actually done. It's just you got a little bit of each thing done.
Yeah.
And then you're just like behind on things.
Yeah, and you are quite literally training your mind to be distracted. Like,
Scattering.
by definition. And then for anyone, like, this podcast is like about sex and medicine. And like for me, on the sexual landscape of things, when you're training your mind to be scatterbrained and distracted and like squirrel, like, trying to hold all these things, when you go into lovemaking, it's impossible to feel pleasure and actually be in your body. So in my opinion, this is a huge reason why a lot of people have difficulty with their sexual action, like sexual encounters as well.
Wow.
Yeah,
That totally makes sense.
I
I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, it's massive.
Yep.
I always bring everything back to sex. To me, sex models life. But yeah. So so we're gonna go really deep into sharing you guys with our own process that we've learned from Samantha Skelly. What was her handle again?
I don't know what the handle is, but I know the podcast is called Can't Be Contained.
On her Can't Be Contained podcast, and we'll put in the show notes too. But we just wanted to shout her out because we really enjoyed the framing and the questions that she had that we're going to share with you guys. And we wanted to obviously give her credit where credit's due. So what we're going to be sharing is just like 5 top wins and a couple other things, and we'll go into it again. We'll drop everything in the show notes for you guys. But so yeah, we just really want you guys to kind of listen in, and then you can kind of do it on your own as well. So we do have it written down. So you might hear some paper for anyone living on the podcast side, but on YouTube you can see us kind of looking down and reading on our papers as well. So but we can start with our 5 top wins, and Kasey, I'll let you go.
Yeah, okay, so number 1, I had a shift from healing from a place of self-hate to healing from a place of self-love.
Wow.
And that was a really big one for me. I went through that over the summer, and I realized during that when I kind of began my healing journey, it was coming from a place of self-hate, and it was coming from a place of like trying to fix myself constantly because like you're not good enough. So you're trying to fix every little anxiety, every little quote unquote bad emotion.
Yeah.
You're just constantly like, because you're not good enough, and you think when you fix all these things, like then you'll finally be good enough. And that shift came when I started healing from a place of self-love and finally accepting and realizing that like I deserve the life that I want, and I deserve to be happy, and I deserve to have my dreams. So that was a huge one. That was probably one of my biggest ones for this year. I also had physical health and strength. So I did a really good job this year, I think, on my physical health and like continuously working out and sticking to that schedule and holding myself accountable there. I went to Peru earlier this year in March and just deepened my knowledge and my experience and relationship with Cambo and the indigenous people that steward that medicine. And then moving to Winnipeg was a big one for me too. It created a lot of aligned community and friendships and relationships that I didn't have before, and I feel like even in the past, it's only been 8 months since I've been here, but I've created deeper relationships than I had probably in the past 10 years. And then my last one was just an overall general one. I like to look back at myself like where I was 1 year ago and just like realize how much I've grown. Just like personal growth, healing, professional growth and learning, all of those things. So yeah,
Those are a great list.
Thank you.
That is a great list. Thank you for sharing. Like that's. We should do like a little background of. That's great. So my 5 top wins. The first one, and this is like, it may seem so mundane for a lot of people, but this was a really pivotal moment for me. And I finally registered my business for my personal business and for my other co-ownership of New Paradigm Intimacy. And that was huge because I was really dragging my feet on on actually registering my business with the government. Just it's one of those like mundane tasks that makes it really difficult for me for me to do. So that was huge for me, and it really made me feel like I had like my roots kind of like established too. And the second one was kind of related, but it was still really big for me. Is I acquired the New Paradigm Intimacy brand and like the actual business and everything related to the content and the modality and the certification and just like everything that's involved with it. That was huge for me because I had such a massive transformation through New Paradigm Intimacy, and now I feel like anytime we go through a massive transformation that was so impactful, we want to like shout it from the mountains. And this is like my way of really emphasizing like how fucking important this work really is. So that was huge for me. And then 3, I hosted my first retreat, which is actually quite recent. It was Desire Resolution Retreat. So far they're like all business related because it was such like it was really such like a big shift for me to just being a mom and like a devoted partner and going through the motions of going to college and like doing this, like doing all the things that I think I'm supposed to do, and then finally having the courage of doing something going else was a really, really big thing for me. So yeah, I hosted my first retreat, which was wildly successful. If anyone knows anything about me, like I've been saying this a lot, I've been like really holding the vision for the last couple of years to have a group sex magic ritual, and that was part of the retreat, and it was just fucking epic. Like it was fucking epic, and I cannot wait to run it again. So that was great. And then number 4, I did my first speaking event on stage, and so the speaking event was Enlightened After Dark. Anyone may or may not that's listening may have been there. It was wildly successful for my first event to be talking on stage. I had a what's the word I'm looking for here? We had a panel, so someone else was speaking on it too, and the crowd, like everyone was there. I had amazing things to say about it. So that was just so life-giving. Yeah, it was amazing, and I cannot wait to do more speaking events too. Amazing. And then number 4, I have a kind of like 2 that here, because I remember I was having a hard time kind of tuning into the top 5 wins when we were doing it. But one of them was like feeling really like a lot more connected. Let's see, feeling more connected, and oh yeah, and it's been feeling a lot more connected with my lover and my son, and like when we're having really hard conversations. Like I remember like in the beginning years of our relationship, like we never really had hard conversations, and in hindsight, I know that did come from a fear of intimacy for me and like just our relationship as a whole. And like a really big driver for me is having, like having a really harmonious, not only relationship, but family unit. So having those hard conversations and still feeling connected has just been so fucking good. Like, amazing. And then I just added another one because I was like, it was hard to make that tangible, but it was creating aligned collaborations and friendships, and you would be one of them. Like, we have just been creating so much together, and it's just been so, like, soil is just so rich, you know what I mean? And I've already experienced, like, in the past, just, like, a lot of hardships with friendships where, like, I really feel deeply bonded with them, and then just dropped. And it was really hard to experience a lot of that with the friendships with that, actually quite recently, but now I have those lessons to like really feel like, okay, like is this aligned? So that was a really huge win for me to feel the contrast of that specifically in friendships, and it actually kind of bled into my business collaborations as well, because there were some that were kind of like, yes. It's just like you'll just say yes because it's like, yeah, this is what I want to do, but then not really having the discernment. And it's just like when you're choosing a lover, right? Like it's very intimate. So now having just a deeper level of awareness and discernment on the people that I collaborate with, people that are willing to be my friend, basically, and not just being like a yes man or like, I guess what's the word here, needy, if you will. Like there was like, not that I was needy, but there was a slight subtle energetic of just being so open and so caring. And I know this, I had a really big heart, I'm really caring, I'm really accepting, I'm very open-minded. Like, think of the shit that I talk about, like I listen to wild desires and I have zero judgment. And yeah, so that just really leaves my field really open, and I get like a lot of people in my field. So just having more discernment on who actually at my core aligns. Oh my god, I got so much of it. There's actually one more layer I want to share because I think this will be useful for people. So it's not so much like there could be a layer of people pleasing, but for me, one of my like core erotic archetypes is a shapeshifter, and the shadow of a shapeshifter is quite literally shaping and shifting into someone else's likes and needs and wants and desires, and then really losing yourself. So that was a really underlying dynamic that happened in my friendships as well. So huge win in being able to discern and identify that now.
Yeah, no, I love that one that you just shared about like it's like having only accepting opportunities that truly align with you, as opposed to, and that's a hard thing when you're in business because you're like, oh, like all these opportunities are coming to me and I want to do this and I want to do that. But that's how you kind of get into situations with people, with collaborations, with whatever else is going on that you don't truly align, but you just like jump too soon because you know it's on a surface level it like seemed good and you're like, oh, I can make money doing this or something, even though that money or that way of earning money may not even be aligned with what you really want.
And not even that, like for me, what it really highlighted for me, it's like I'm not just in this for the short term.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I really am in this for the long game, for creating something that I can look back in my life and be really fucking proud of, and maybe even pass down to my kids. You know, for generational. I guess wealth is the word I'm looking for, like really generational wealth. And in order to do that, you really do need to create a brand. And in order to have some formulation of a brand, you can't just be running around with any Joe Schmo of the street. It has to feel aligned. It has to be aligned to the greater picture of things. So that was like a huge, huge win for me to really land it in my body.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cue the clapping. We'll get something out of it.
And then top 5 lessons.
Okay, so number 1 for me, I had moving from regular income to self-employed income, and that was a really, really hard shift, going from like, you know, that regular paycheck every 2 weeks to being self-employed, which means it's a lot more up and down, and you're not getting a steady weekly or even monthly income. So that was a big lesson, and I had to just learn different ways of tracking and spending. And then my second one was accountability to myself. So I always considered myself to be really good at holding myself accountable. But what I learned is I was only good at accountability when someone else was relying on me. So I had a job and I had a manager and I was accountable to that manager, or you know, I had just whatever, family, friend, whoever else was relying on me. That was the only time that I was really good at holding myself accountable. And then when I became like an entrepreneur, business owner, and it's just you.
Yeah.
Like you are answering to yourself and no one else. And I realized that I kind of suck at holding myself accountable and like being disciplined in my time management or getting those little tedious tasks done. So that was a big lesson I had to learn as well. Number 3, speaking, communication, and voice. I, in the beginning of 2023, couldn't even like send a voice note. Like I've shared this before, like sending even a voice note would send me into like a full nervous system activation. And I've done a lot of healing with that over the year to now like sit on a podcast and be like going into a studio next
Yeah, you've come a long way.
Yeah, it's been crazy. And to not have like that like heart pounding, like, oh my God, I don't like shaky feeling it's a really good feeling. Relationships. So I took a year off dating throughout 2022, decided to start dating again after I moved to Winnipeg in early 2023, and realized that I was perpetuating the same patterns. So started dating again, and I'm like, fuck, like I thought all these things, like I healed, apparently I did not heal. So again, like I took a break from that and really tuned into like, where is this coming from? And of course it comes back to like that win that I mentioned earlier, is like the shift to self-love.
Yeah.
And when I did that, now towards the end of the year, I'm actually in a really like healthy and new and exciting relationship that is probably like the first healthy relationship I've ever been in.
Celebrate new life.
Yeah. So yeah, that was another one. And my last one, money and business. way harder than anticipated.
I wrote it down.
Yep. And this just comes from naivety, I think, and just, following the narratives online that you see, and oh, you just quit your job and start your business and everything's gonna be good and you'll be making money like no problem. And business is so fucking confronting. You have to confront your fear of judgment.
Specifically entrepreneurship.
Yeah, entrepreneurships. Yeah, so confronting your fear of like money beliefs, criticism, judgment, uncertainty, instability, like all of these things come up when you move into entrepreneurship. So yeah, way harder than I ever anticipated it would be. But at the same time, more fulfilling than any job I've ever had.
Mm-hmm. I concur.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, so my lessons, I think I put extra 1, 2 here, but here we go. So number 1, choosing aligned friendships, collabs are just as important as lowers. And I kind of spoke to that a little bit when I shared my wins, so I won't go too much deeper about that. No matter your differences in your relationship, as long as you and your lover are both willing, you can overcome any hardship that you're given. That was a huge thing for me. Like over the last few years, actually, there's just been so much change within myself that I had to bring to my partner. And we could have burst and combusted into dust many times. Yet we were both so willing that we came together and we overcame the differences. So I see this happen countless times in real life with just people that I know. There's 2 people that, even when you don't feel like you fucking love that person anymore, there is just the willingness of cooperation. Like, no, okay, I see you as you are. I understand you're trying. This is me with all my imperfections. I'm also trying. And your love finds a way. So, yeah, I just really have a deep belief that no matter how, even like, I can go really deep with this, but there's just so much that happens in our lives, whether it be cheating, whether it be wanting someone else, whether it be a death, whether it be a new kid, or like an ex comes back, like whatever, whatever the story that comes, I really do deeply believe as long as those 2 people are fucking willing, you guys can get over anything. So that was a huge lesson for me. Number 3, this is one I'm also very passionate about. All unspoken grievances or resentments will come back and bite you in the ass if you hold back. And what I mean by this, anytime you're feeling something, or there's something happens in your partnership where they do something that you just don't fucking like, and it stews and it festers and it just hangs out in your body mind, and it's now inside of you. And in the field of intimacy, like when you're in relation, even friendships, like when you're in a friendship or a relationship, any intimacy that you cultivated, that field is transparent. People can feel that. They don't necessarily know why, but it creates like a distortion and a crunchiness, and like it can be read so far off than what the truth is, which could just be as simple as like, you didn't say hi to me this morning, something so dumb, and you hold that back, and then your partner feels that, and they're like, fuck, she's in a bad mood, what the fuck's wrong with her, she's a fucking bitch, like, because it's like constantly there, just dumb things like that, and it just grows, and it grows, and it festers, to the point where like, you can feel the tension in the air, and you can feel that there's like, yeah, it's like that there's an elephant in the room and no one even knows why anymore. Until someone does some small thing and you just blow up, right? There's like this reactivity that just pulls on out of you. And now you're fighting. You don't understand why you're fighting, and then maybe eventually it gets clear here because all the tension is now released. But it was just so unnecessary, because rewind, you could have just said the dumb little thing and it would have been done. So that was a huge lesson for me, because I've done that in many respects. I've held back on just really things like, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just like processing in my mind, like, oh, it could be this, it could be that, like, oh, it's my projection, oh, it's their projection, like, just because I understand, the human psyche so much, I'll like try to piece it together and puzzle it in my own brain. I was like, nah, just fucking say it. So that was a huge lesson. And then your children need you regardless of how busy you are. It was a really, really hard one for me, because, but yeah, there was a lot of like a lot of things going on with my son that I'm not going to share in here, but there's just a lot of things going on that really required me to be incredibly fucking present as a parent. And just because I was so busy and just kind of scattered and running around with my own head cut off a little bit, because there was a lot going on in the business that I had obviously zero control over, that I really needed to like haul my ass to get going. So there was just things that my son required me to be present for that I wasn't. And any parent knows that when you do that, your kid is like, I don't want to like paint it off like they're on a leash, but it's like you need to hold them close, right? You need to hold them close. And the more you're kind of like busy in your own world, they get further and further and further and further away. And because kids need their parents, if you're not in that vicinity, that proximity, energetically speaking, and just, you know, talking to them consistently, they're doing it with someone else. And that's when kids get impressionable and they go to games, and I'm not saying the kids at a game, just like I'm painting like a higher level picture of like how bad it can be. But that's why, you know, the distance happens. So yeah, there was just like an interruption in my little family unit that required more attention, and I got really, really hands-on. And yeah, it ended up being good, and it ended up being really, really beautiful after. So that was it could have been a lot worse, but it was still a lesson that I learned, and I'm also really thankful for. Absolutely. And I added another one because it came later when we were doing our lessons, and a huge one was learning to trust God with money. It was a huge one for me. This summer got really scary. Like as an entrepreneur, you know, you shared a little bit about relying on consistent income versus kind of your own income. But in a sense, like there is a lot of trust that's needed that it will come, because otherwise you're running around in this survival state that people can feel. And that's fucking gross. Mm-hmm. Like when you're running around like, pay me, buy my stuff, like I'm blah, 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 like that.
Desperate.
Desperate. People can feel that, and that's when the sales stop. So I did experience a little bit of that this summer. Even though things were still growing, it just got to be a really scary point that my nervous system just was not prepared to hold. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I had to go into. Maybe we'll record a podcast in the future, because that's a huge thing I think both of us can talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I learned the lesson in real time on really trusting a higher power, and relaxing a little bit in the unknown and the uncertainty of like when money's going to come and when money's not going to come, but ultimately knowing that it will come. Mm-hmm. And having the trust that it will come is just so fucking freeing. So that was a great lesson.
Beautiful. Yeah. So the next question is, what am I most proud of from 2023? This one for me, I have two, and the first one is how I moved through a lot of pain, took my space, recognized my patterns, and integrated those lessons. Mm. So I feel like 2023, there was a lot of releasing and a lot of letting go that went on. A lot of like removing layers and healing, and I feel like I did a really good job at having those moments, but then taking the time afterwards to learn from it, taking the moments and taking the time afterwards to like really learn and implement those lessons into my life.
Yeah.
And then also taking time when I realized that like something wasn't right to me. Like I'm like, oh, there's something here right now. There's something kind of like ruminating in my system. Like, what is it? And then making sure that I took that space to acknowledge it and kind of like reflect and figure out what was actually going on, instead of kind of just letting it like stew in my system. Mm-hmm. Which typically, like historically, is something that I would do. Like, oh no, I'm too busy. I don't have time for this right now. I don't want to pay attention, or I don't want to right now, or whatever. And then the second one was how I followed what felt right, even when it didn't make sense to others or even myself. Mm-hmm. So that was a big lesson as well. Just like, I feel like leaps of faith, like over and over and over and over again. And even just like when I was about to take an action and it was like, I don't know where this is gonna go. I don't know how I'm gonna land. I don't know what this looks like, but this is what feels right to me. And even when you have people on the outside being like, what are you doing? Like, this is insane. This is not how you live your life. This isn't how things are quote unquote supposed to be. So I feel like I did a really good job of just like following my own path.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing for anyone. Like, if anyone that's trying to create something in their life that likely they haven't, like, hasn't been done before, don't ever take advice from someone that isn't living the life that you want. That's been like me over the years. So like I resonate with that deeply.
Yeah.
So what I'm most proud of, it was two things here. So the relationships I'm building with my son and my partner, basically my family, and the character evolution of myself as a woman, has been huge for me because, like I ran away when I was 16 years old, and I remember like couch surfing and like sleeping on hardwood floors, sleeping in stolen cars, and like having nowhere to sleep some days. And I remember in those days of my life, I would cry myself to sleep because I'm like, I don't have anyone, no one loves me, like, just that obviously very victim, rightfully so, but yeah, and like that lived in my body mind for a very, very long time. So like in creating my own family, like is such a huge passion of mine, and to see the evolution in 2023 and like getting to a place of actually tangibly feeling that relational field and feeling the bliss of what it actually is has been so fucking profound and healing. So yeah, I'm incredibly proud of that. And just the woman who I'm becoming, because you really need to be a mature woman of integrity in order to create a family that is nourishing for you and your family. So that's been massive. And then the other one was, oh no, that was actually it. So never mind, I'm reading something else.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I guess next we wanted to talk about 5 things we're leaving behind in 2023 because, Lord forbid, there's a lot we need to leave behind.
Yeah, big time. So my first one on this one was limiting beliefs on how I can make money. So I kind of stuck myself in the box and labeled myself as strictly a Canva practitioner. So when you do that, like it really closes off all the other channels that money can come to you, and it just keeps the one like I can only make money from Canva. So that required like a mindset shift from like I'm a Canva practitioner to like I'm an entrepreneur, which opens up so many different channels for not just money, but like opportunity, relationships, like all these other things that can flow into your life, because you've just like opened that field up and you've stopped limiting yourself on like who you are or what you can be. My second one was I have a deathly fear about my credit score.
Yeah, I did too. I don't know if we talked about that before, but yeah, me too.
So like, bless my parents and everything. They tried to instill, tried to help me like avoid their mistakes, right? So I always heard the word like never let anything hit your credit score. If you ever let anything hit your credit score, it's gonna be like the worst thing you ever do. So I held this like literally I thought that if I didn't pay a bill, like my life would end.
Yeah.
Like I would never.
I know. I used to feel that in my body mind. Like,
yeah,
and it was terrifying.
Exactly. Yeah. And of course, like going through some financial hardships this year, I did have something. Like I had a couple bills that I didn't pay, and guess what? I survived. And you move on, and that was it. And it's so funny when we have these fears. The thing that you fear most suddenly happens, and you're like, oh, all right. Like you just move on from it.
I actually, before you continue, sorry, I actually have a deep belief that those deep fears that we have, like that or anything in general, until we grant ourselves the permission to feel it, we will create that in our life just to feel it. So this is why it's so important to have coaches and support and just modalities that allow us to express and experience that feeling so that we know we're not going to die, because it lives within us and we quite literally recreate those scenarios over and over and over again.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% convinced that I had to go through that experience in order to learn that lesson and get rid of that fear.
Yeah.
Or else I would still be holding on to it right now. So my third one for things I'm leaving behind is fear of judgment, being seen, and criticism. And that's been a big one for me that I've done so much healing around, and at this point, like, it has to be left behind because of what we're doing and because of like my own business with Cambo and the podcast and all those things. It's like it's time to let that one go. Fourth one was unworthiness. So just I kind of mentioned this before, I think in the first top 5 lessons, was not believing that I deserved to have the things that I wanted, not believing that I deserved to have the relationship or to be loved in the way that I wanted to be loved. we're leaving that in 2023.
Fuck yeah. Clear, delete.
Goodbye. And then the other one was avoidance of tedious tasks. So I'm really bad for having something on my to-do list that it would take me 5 minutes to do, and it just like sits there and I just don't do it and don't do it and don't do it. And then it's been there for like 2 weeks, and then I do it and I'm like, wow, that took 5 minutes. Why did I not take care of this? And I'm really bad for like just avoiding things like that. So that is something else that I really want to focus on. Just like do your shit, get it done, and move on.
Mm-hmm.
And then it doesn't feel like it's crowding your space. Because
Mm-hmm.
then if you let that go on for 2-3 weeks, suddenly you've got 10 little tasks that have just been like building, and it just like I feel like energetically clogged. That's how I feel when I have all these tasks going on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, and just to kind of tie that a little bit to the unworthiness aspect, because I do have that a lot too. It reaffirms that you're unworthy because you're telling yourself like, oh, I didn't do that, see, blah 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 blah, and then the things don't happen in your life, and it's like, you see, I'm not worthy. I've had that many times.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, exactly. It's a shadow. I have it too, so I just want to express that. So yeah, 5 things for me that I'm leaving behind in 2023. Looking to others and or online for inspiration or like how to do something. So this one is huge for me, and like I kind of oscillate between doing it and not doing it, because it's like I'll get like my own inspiration. I'm like, yeah, here I go, and I just do it. But there's times when the inspiration stops, and because I'm in a business, right, there is this belief where I need to be on all the time. I need to be consistent, which, you know, you kind of do, but there are strategic ways you can go about it where you're not burning yourself to the ground, and you can step back and honor those times when you don't have inspiration, in order to have everything still moving and going. So that was a lesson for me, because, you know, looking online, you end up kind of sounding like other people the more you do it. And I did notice that in a few aspects that I was doing, so I'm leaving that the fuck behind. And when I did start doing that, so I was able to reaffirm this within myself, and I want to, again, leave this shit behind, that's when I had more success. That's when the things were landing more with people online, when I was truly honoring my own time to like rest and my own inspiration and my own creativity rather than looking somewhere else. And then 2, waiting to the last minute, procrastinating, doing something important before shit hits the fan. So kind of similar to what you were saying, like I said, I do that too. And there really is a lot to this. And like procrastination, from what I've observed within myself, is in regards to a bit of a trauma response in my own body, where, you know, I do have something which is legitimately important, even though it's something so small. My body can feel the importance, even though it'll maybe take 2-5 minutes. My body can feel the importance, and it is disrupting some, you know, something would have happened a long time ago. Maybe I did something and I got in trouble for it, and it's just like, oh, like I got, like my parents yelled at me because I did it wrong, like I have the fear of getting wrong, and like there's just a lot to it. So like whatever, I'll just put it off. I don't need to deal with the possibility, right? So I really experienced that, and I really want to let that go, because I know the more you do the things, not only does your life get better because you're doing the important tasks that need to get done in an efficient time, but I'm also showing myself that I can do it, so I'm building confidence and trust, and I'm also getting that little dopamine kick. So it's like, oh, I feel good. So it's like, just fucking do the thing, Chelsy. So yeah, there with you with that. And then number 3 is sugarcoating my truth. So I know I'm here for fucking impact, and I'm here to initiate people in many different ways in this planet. Like one of them, if anyone knows Human Design, I'm a manifestor, and like our theme, like really is to be the initiator, the innovator, the visionary. I know that's part of why I'm here. Not just because of that, because I can literally feel it viscerally. Like anytime I meet people, like I'm activating them without even realizing it. So I find that I can sugarcoat my truth because it is very disrupting to them, because it is like calling them other people forward. So I want to let that go, because it's watering my own truth down, and it's like, I'm not here for that. Fuck that. And number 4, feeling like I need to be polished, prepared to present, talk, speak, and etc. So it kind of leans into the other one, but yeah, like this little thing that I do is when something's important to me and I don't want to fuck it up, I don't want to say the wrong thing or whatever. I will over prepare. I will research and research and research, which is a great quality to have. That's how I got my computer science degree. That's how I do a lot of my, like, I've learned so much in my life. And there's a fine line of it being mental masturbation and just, it's like just trying to fill myself self up with something because I don't believe I'm smart enough, or I don't believe I can, or I'm like, I don't think I'm worthy enough, or like I think I'm stupid, or like whatever these things. I have all these beliefs that oscillate in myself. So it just reaffirms those beliefs, and I'll do it so much where my eyes are like, I can't even, my eyes are burning because I've been like reading, or like just, I haven't listened to my body, I need to rest. And like not trusting my own abilities that, yeah, you know, you're doing this speaking event, or you're doing this podcast, or you know, you're coaching this person, or like whatever the thing that I've been doing, like I already have the knowledge inside of me. I just really need to let go of the fucking fear that's clouding my judgment and really rest in my own trust and confidence in myself and my own abilities. So that's something I 100% want to leave behind. Fuck, clear cut delete. And then this last one is just something that I've been meaning to do, and it's holy socks.
You know, when you first said that when we were doing this, I said holy socks, and I didn't even understand what you were saying. I was like, God socks? Like what? Like, Bible socks? I have no idea what's going on right now.
Like literally, like so I love in like the colder season. So we're in Canada, it gets pretty cold here. I like to wear big, like thick, cozy socks because it's just like another random tip here. Anyone, like especially women, like our feet and our hands get really cold, and cold feet is a representation of a cold womb. So like I'm really yeah, and like I'm really attuned, like, oh, like my feet right now are a little cold. I'm not wearing big thick socks, but like yeah, I just want to wear big thick socks. It's cozy. So because I wear them so often, I just haven't gotten any new ones recently. I have some holy ones, and it's just not a good vibe. Like it's
not a good look.
No, leaving that behind in 2023.
Do you sew your socks?
Why would I do that?
Okay, isn't that the weirdest thing? So, slight personal story right here. I'm gonna call up my boyfriend right now. He like when we first started dating, he's like, "Do you sew the holes in your socks?" And I was like, "No, you just buy fucking new socks." And he's like, "No, you have to sew them." And I'm like, "No, you just get new socks."
Is he like a migrated family?
No, just sews his socks. Anyways, yeah.
Oh my
He's
god.
gonna laugh because he's gonna listen to this and call
yeah,
out.
and just like because you walk on your socks so consistently, when you do that, it's just gonna rip again around where you sew it.
No. I know. Okay, just making sure we're on the same page. You and I are on the same page.
Okay, cool. Just like the functional bag, but
yeah.
inside joke. Yeah, and then what was the last bit we wanted to share?
We wanted to share the theme of 2024.
Right, so the theme. So the theme, what we mean by the theme for 2024, this is like really tied into like what we feel at a personal level for our own vision, and just kind of in a general scheme of things. So I really want to invite people, you know, to tune into your heart, to tune into like your own, if you've been following along, but maybe just come back to the questions later that we'll drop in the show notes, but just really tuning into your own vision for 2024 and what you feel your theme would be. And so we're just going to share what ours are.
Yeah, so my theme of 2024 is health and wealth. So on the health aspect, I talk a lot, when it comes to Cambo, I talk a lot about like health and the health benefits of it and stuff. So for me, I want to be like at my healthiest. I want to be practicing what I preach, right? I want to be in integrity with that. So like 2023, I feel like I did a really good job at like becoming stronger and healthier, and my eating habits were a lot better. So I just want to continue that and keep that going and keep improving on it throughout 2024. And then the wealth aspect is not just about making money, but also about making better money habits, better financial decisions, building a foundation, something that you can actually like grow from the ground up. And again, not just about making money, but like wealth comes in all different forms. Wealth in relationships, wealth in happiness and purpose and fulfillment and all of that. So yeah, that's my theme. 2024.
Cheers to that, prosperity. So for my theme, I put getting lost and to fall in love in the process, climbing the ladder, getting seen, and having a whole bunch of fucking fun doing it. So that I am just so here, like for the beginning of starting my business, like I was so set on like creating this big amazing thing, which I know will happen, but in reality that shit takes time. Like it really does take time. You need to create roots, it needs to grow, it needs to really land for people around you, and you know, like it requires people to like really be in your field and networking and all these things, and that's great. So I really want to focus, and I feel the theme for me, and I can just, and it just makes me smile. Is just getting lost in the process of creating that, getting and just fucking falling in love with it, and essentially just falling in love with life. So like I can feel, oh, I can feel it. And it's just so juicy, and yeah, and just having a whole fucking shit ton of fun while I'm doing it.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of insight into our vision, our themes, anyways. And I just want to invite everyone else to really tune into like, yeah, like what it is you feel like your vision is for 2024. And we'll share a few more questions in the show notes so you guys can kind of really, really tune into that. Because you have to think about it. Like if you don't have some kind of vision in front of you, you're gonna land somewhere that you're not wanting to go. There's no way for you to, when you do any type of reflecting, like how do you know you're in the direction that you want to go? Like you have that ability to set the tone and to change the direction, to pivot when there's challenges, to move towards where it is that you want to move towards.